We are continuing on with the Sunday slider project. For some reason, some of you guys don't think that I'm gonna finish this project because I'm not posting videos on it every day, but that is not the case. We are gonna finish this, get it on a dyno, get it tuned, because I wanna go out and drift this car. Bear with me. I do have a lot of other projects we're working on, but I promise I'm not gonna forget about you FRS and BRZ guys out there. For those of you who don't already know, I have an FRS of my own that I'm building into a track car. If you wanna follow along on that build, I will link my channel down below. Shameless plug. Now that being said, we have two things on the agenda today. We're gonna be installing the Verus Engineering air oil separator. That's gonna help us with any blow-by. With the AOS, you can also purchase the coolant add-on and the auto drain kit that's gonna drain the oil back through the cam plate, which is the second thing we're gonna be installing today. Now, I don't actually know if the cam plate on this car is leaking, but it is a common issue on these cars, so we're gonna take care of that while we're at it. We're gonna start off with the AOS first. Now keep in mind the routing of the lines is gonna be a little bit different depending on whether you have an NA setup or a forced induction setup. Obviously we've got the HKS supercharger kit on there. So if you have an NA setup, the lines are gonna look a little bit different than what I'm showing you, but the overall concept is basically the same. I've already gone ahead and installed one of the barb fittings onto the AOS and removed the battery. The next thing we're gonna do is remove the hose that goes from the intake manifold to the PCV valve. We're gonna be pulling this hose on the passenger side of the intake manifold here. Once you have that off, we can pull it off the PCV valve and remove the PCV valve with a 19mm socket. Once that PCV valve is removed, we can install the other included barb fitting. Make sure you've got some thread sealant on there. And this just needs to be torqued down to about 12 to 18 foot-pounds. Before we get too far into the AOS install, I figured we'd do the cam plate while we're in the area. And if you take a look at the very bottom there, you can actually see that it is leaking a little bit. Like I said, this is a common issue with these. So we're gonna get that taken care of. Luckily, it's an easy fix. It's just 3 12mm bolts that we need to undo. For those of you who didn't already know, this is located on the backside of the engine on the passenger side near the battery. We've got the 3 12mm bolts off. Now what we need to do is take a pry bar and carefully pry off the engine. Does take quite a bit of force, so just be careful you're not prying on anything that may break. There we go. Now if I just turn this around for you to take a look at, you can kind of see it's leaking on the very bottom there of the gasket. So we're going to replace it with the Verus Engineering plate, which is going to help alleviate that problem. I've gone ahead and wiped down the area to make sure it's clean so the new cam plate can have a good seal. Now we can just slide that down there and install the 3 bolts. I'm going to torque these down to 12 foot-pounds. And then we will continue on with the AOS install. Back to the AOS install, we need to remove this bracket here underneath the battery. It's just held in with 2 10mm bolts. And then we'll be able to install, well, there's one more thing we need to do, but then we can install the bracket to mount the AOS. We are going to be reinstalling this bracket, so don't toss it. We're gonna want to loosen this 10mm nut that's holding in this harness here. Again, just loosen it so that we're able to slide the mounting bracket behind. Now we can take the bracket, and again, it's gonna slide behind the harness here where we just loosened. And then we'll wanna line it up with the hole in the bracket that we removed, and we'll reinstall the bracket. And for that hole here, we're gonna use the included bolt and washer. And then we just need to tighten that 10mm nut, and we can install the AOS to the bracket. Quick intermission here, guys. I've got a little giveaway for you. We've got 2 HKS Swag Packs that include this nice HKS t-shirt. I'll show you the back here. You're also going to get a small HKS model car along with some of their decals. All you have to do is comment down below letting me know what wheels you would like to see on our Sunday Slider project car, and that's it. I will randomly select 2 winners and announce them in next week's video. Let's get back to the install. To install the AOS, we just need the 3 included Allen bolts and washers. And once we have these installed, we can route the lines. When we're routing the lines, there's one important thing to keep in mind. We basically just don't want both of the inlets or vacuum lines to go on the same side. So don't route them both on the right side or the left side. What I'm gonna do is route this port here to the fitting that we installed in place of the PCV valve. And then on the opposite side, this is gonna go to the port that's located underneath the AC condenser. And the 2 inner ones here are our vacuum sources. They're both gonna be tapped into the port that is located on the HKS intake inlet. All right, so we may have gotten a little ahead of ourselves when we decided to finish up the HKS install. I thought I was gonna have access to the port that's underneath the AC condenser, and I was wrong. So I had to pull off the intake and some of the piping to get the AC condenser off. I was gonna have to do it anyway to route some of the lines. So now we should have access to everything we need. So let's finish up this install. Verus does supply us with a good amount of line to work with and cut to our desired length, which I've already done. We're gonna start off with the shortest one, which is gonna go to the fitting that we use to replace the PCV valve. And that's gonna go to the outside port on our AOS. The other inlet, which is gonna be the far right port on the AOS, is gonna go to the port underneath the AC condenser here. So I have the line routed underneath the intake manifold and to the AOS. For the 2 leftover vacuum sources, we're gonna tap both of them into this intake inlet here. I did some Frankenstein work with the HKS hose and a 90-degree fitting and an OEM hose that ends up with a Y barb fitting back here. So we just need 2 hoses to connect the 2 ports on the AOS to the Y fitting, and then we should be set to put everything else back together. That pretty much wraps up the install, guys. I just need to get things put back together and buttoned up. Next week, we are going to throw the fluids into the car, and I'm gonna go through the whole tuning process with you guys. For those of you who are interested in purchasing a kit through us or an EcuTech kit that includes one of our tunes, this is gonna show you what all needs to be done. We're gonna be in touch with our tuner, make sure we've got everything we need, and then we can throw this thing on the dyno and see how much power it makes. If you guys are interested in picking up the Verus Engineering AOS or cam plate for yourself, I will leave the links down in the description. Make sure you comment down below with your wheel selection for the Sunday Slider project to enter the giveaway. And I will see you guys next time.